Hello and welcome. We are just getting started today, just opening up our session to all of you who've been waiting in the waiting room to be here. Welcome, it's great to have you. You can see here on your screen, you have arrived at the informational webinar on this upcoming program here at Stanford Graduate School of Business. This course is all about launching a startup. And here today, we are joined by 3 program faculty members who have put their minds together to create this course and are here to tell us all about it. I so look forward to introducing them here to you in just a moment. We're going to be touching on 2 key themes as we make our way through this viewing experience. Firstly, you're going to learn all about what is in this course, what are those curricular details and learning objectives, what are you going to take away from this program? And then we're also going to learn how you will learn. So how is the learning experience designed to ensure that you have the very best learning possible? So a lot in store here for you as we make our way through the session. You will also note that we are joined by a team of program advisors. They are here with us live. If you have any questions throughout the session, please put them there in the question and answer box. Our program advisors are going to be answering those via typed text throughout the session here today. So please don't hesitate to let us know what's on your mind. If we don't get back to you live here today, we'll follow up by email within 12 hours with an answer to your question. So a lot of support. Welcome to this community. Thank you for joining here today. And let's go ahead and introduce our keynote speakers. Firstly, we have Professor James Lattin, who's the Robert Magowin Professor of Marketing here. His research has examined consumer purchase behavior, customer relationship management, and loyalty reward programs, with a more recent focus on customer acquisition, go-to-market strategy, and sales force productivity. In the Stanford MBA program, he teaches elective courses on customer acquisition, building and managing sales organizations, and the fundamentals of effective selling. He is joined here by his colleague, Professor Baba Shiv, who is the Salwa Bank Limited Professor of Marketing here. His work includes the application of neuroeconomics to the study and practice of innovation and entrepreneurial leadership in companies from Silicon Valley startups to Fortune 500 companies, as well as countries including India, Malaysia, and New Zealand. He frequently consults and is on the advisory boards of several startups. And then finally, of course, here we have with us Professor Stefanos Zinios, the Investment Group of Santa Barbara Professor of Entrepreneurship and Professor of Operations, Information, and Technology, as well as the Director for the of Entrepreneurial Studies. So very happy to have you here with us as well. Professor Zinios is an innovative teacher and researcher and the main architect of the Startup Garage, a popular GSB course that helps hundreds of Stanford GSB students and executives learn to apply the innovation processes that are at the center of the Silicon Valley ecosystem. So all of this comes together here. I am going to invite our professors now into our fireside chat view. Thank you all for being here. Very honored to be learning shoulder to shoulder with today's audience and every one of you. So I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit more about what brought you to this program, what your background is, and how you've incorporated that here into the program. Maybe we'll start with you, Professor Shiv. You're to my left, so I'll start with you, and then I'll let you hand it off from there. Let's get you off mute there. There we go.
Sorry about that. Yeah, nice to be here. Thank you. My name is Baba Shiv. I've been at Stanford since 2005. When I came here, I got the entrepreneurial bug. It's very easy to get the entrepreneurial bug here in Silicon Valley. Got interested in innovation, entrepreneurship, and entrepreneurial leadership. And then I offered a program, this is across the globe, for very early stage entrepreneurs, what is called the go-to-market program, which is where kind of I got the kind of an idea about what does it take for an early stage entrepreneur to be successful. And from there, it evolved into a course that we put together that is Jim and Stefanos and I called the Embark program, where we had an experience with entrepreneurs globally. And this was this is all online. Learned a lot from that, and delighted to have all that experience and the experience of Jim and Stefanos as well, appearing finally in fruition in this new course.
Okay, I'll hand it over. Professor Zinios, would love to hear from you as well about your background more informally and what brought you to this program.
Thank you, Marie. So Hi, everyone. My name is Stefano Zenios. I'm a professor at the business school, like Jim and Baba. I've been here for a bit more than 20 years. So my journey in the space of innovation started with a collaboration with a great physician at the medical school. His name is Paul York, and he's one of the inventors of a key technology used in balloon angioplasty. So Paul and I developed a program called Biodesign Innovation, in which we would teach engineers, physicians, and MBAs how to launch medical devices. And on the way of developing that program, I came with the realization that successful entrepreneurs follow a structured, systematic process. And that process begins with understanding the need of the customer, developing prototypes, and iteratively testing those prototypes. So then I took those lessons. I ended up collaborating very closely with my colleagues in the design school and developed my MBA course, Startup Garage, in which we use design thinking and lean startup to help teams of MBAs launch their ventures. It's an experiential course, goes over 2 quarters, and we've had thousands of students take the course over the last 15 years. Hundreds of them ended up launching their own ventures, raising a total of more than $3 billion in private equity and venture capital investing. And a few years ago, Jim, Baba, and myself sat down and had coffee and started sharing about what we teach. And we came up with the concept of developing an online offering on how to launch your startup. It started as a small experiment. We did a MOOC over the pandemic, where we had thousands of entrepreneurs dip their toes in our methodology. And now we're excited to be bringing this to fruition into a well-structured, cutting-edge program where we're going to be helping you launch your own ventures. So it's a pleasure to be here and pleasure to be continuing that great collaboration with Baba and Jim.
Thank you, Professor Zenios, for being here and describing some of the frameworks and tools and methodologies that folks can expect to really bring to action their learning here in the background. Professor Latin, would love to hear from you as well about your background and what brought you to this course.
Okay, greetings everyone. I have been here for longer than either Baba or Stefanos. I'm a professor of marketing management, and so for the first time I was here, I spent a lot of time talking to MBAs about marketing. About 20 years ago, we had a groundswell of inquiry from the students. Those who were interested in entrepreneurship were going out into the real world, and they were talking to their investors and their advisors, and they all said, be sure to pay attention to your courses on sales, right, while you're at business school, because when you get out here, it's going to be very important for you to be able to figure out how to go to market with your innovation. So the students would come back and they'd look at the curriculum, and there was no course in sales at the Graduate School of Business. So 20 years ago, I collaborated with Mark Leslie, former CEO of Emeritus Software, and we put a course together that we have been teaching, which is really about go-to-market, but also how to build and manage a professional sales organization. And that course put me on a path where I was talking to entrepreneurs all the time, not just about how to achieve product market fit, but once they had figured that out, how do you get to market in a cost-effective way? So with Baba and with Stefanos, I have really, a lot of my focus has been on figuring out what does it look like to take this business, launch this business, and put your product or service into the hands of your target customers.
Thank you all for putting this course together. I'm so excited to learn more about it. So let's do that. I'm going to reshare my screen and let's jump into learning more about this program, starting with more about this community that you're joining here. One of the advantages here of this program being online, we heard from our professors about sort of the inception of this program, bringing together knowledge and insights from the actual in-person on-campus MBA program here at Stanford Graduate School of Business. So one of the great advantages here of this online course is we're able to build this vibrant community. And so we want to stop firstly and take a moment to welcome each and every one of you. We have 250,000 plus learners from all reaches of the globe who come together to learn through our online offerings here. So courses like this get you face-to-face with a diverse peer group. So not only will you be diving deeply into the frameworks and methodologies shared by your faculty and throughout the program curriculum, but you'll be able to broaden your breadth of knowledge, sort of expand that landscape of ideas as you see these themes and ideas coming to life for your peers in their industry and their professional level and in their geography. So you get a chance to network, to gain peers and colleagues. It's a very relationship-based and team-oriented environment. So we'll talk a little bit more about how that all comes to life here in just a moment. But firstly, here at Stanford Graduate School of Business, welcome to this community. We want to help you understand the mission here of this community that you're joining. Really, the programs here are aimed at bringing to life your learning in an actionable way. So these are deep skills building programs that challenge you to roll up your sleeves and engage with your learning in real time. So these programs engage leaders such as yourselves in this highly immersive environment. Everything is research-based, both in terms of practitioner as well as academia and experience, and they are led by some of the same faculty within the Graduate School of Business here at Stanford who teach within that 2-year MBA. So essentially, this program is opening up access globally and bringing the incredible wealth of knowledge housed within the Stanford Graduate School of Business to all of you across the globe in an affordable and accessible way. So very pleased to have you with us and can't wait to tell you more about your community. In addition to your course faculty, we also bring in expert voices here across different areas or different verticals to come in and talk about their areas of expertise. So you have your program faculty really setting the stage for the curriculum, but you also have a broader teaching team that will introduce you here today, starting with guest speakers. Professor Chev, I would love to invite you in to tell us more about how you've incorporated these expert voices into the curriculum throughout.
Oh, happy to. And one of the objectives behind having guest speakers in this course was that to let the entrepreneurs, the budding entrepreneurs, know that everyone goes through the same journey. It's not like they became successful overnight. They had to go through a process. And so we kind of had kind of looked at the portfolio of guest speakers who would be relevant for this particular course and chose 4 of them. Mudit Garg, all of them are GSB alums. Mudit Garg went in to do just like an air traffic controller for airports and aircrafts. He had hospital traffic control in hospitals. That's what Juventus is about. So it is more business to business, so selling into healthcare. Gayatri Datar took a course here on extreme affordability at the design school. And this is about, going into rural Rwanda, for example, and, doing something about the integrity of the flooring of the homes out there. So she comes from a very different direction. It's kind of almost like a nonprofit, it's a for-profit, but if you think about it, it's not like the Mudit Gargs of the world. Or Tony Shu, for example, came out of Startup Garage, one of Stefanos's success stories, among others. Tony is the founder of DoorDash. So it's a very different industry now. It's more into, commerce and e-commerce, etc., but also in terms of delivery of food. And Beth Gerstein comes from a very different perspective. And if you think about many of these entrepreneurs that I'm talking about, in fact, all of them never ever thought that they'll be getting into the space that they finally got into. Beth Gerstein is a good example of that. I mean, her background was nothing to do with jewelry at all, fine jewelry at all. And then she discovered that, when you go to buy, for example, an engagement ring, the cost of the diamond in the engagement ring is exorbitantly high because there are a lot of wastage in terms of cost, et cetera, in the entire supply chain. And so she created a unique business model where if you're interested in buying an engagement ring, you plunk in, $20,000 in upfront, give it to Brilliant Earth, and Brilliant Earth will do all the procurement and have the ring finally assembled and given to you within about 15 days. I mean, so we have a different portfolio of guest speakers, but the bottom line here is to understand that these people are very successful today, but they were no different than people who will be enrolling in this course. You start with a blank slate, and then you fill up the slate, and then that slate turns into something that is magical.
It's wonderful bringing these guest voices in, and also knowing that this magic that you speak of, this collaborative environment, this reciprocal learning environment really that we've designed here in this program allows us to get face to face with some of these industry leaders as well as our peers as we make our way through the learning. So would love to continue the discussion with our course professors about the relevancy of this program and sort of your dreams, your hopes and dreams for the impact this program would have in terms of its reach. We know many startups fail. There's certainly a need for us to take those tools and methodologies and really structure them. So we'd love to hear your perspectives on the relevancy of this program. So I'm going to invite you back into our fireside view here to tell us a little bit more about some of the pressing issues and trends that you see in the startup environment and how this course is designed to kind of address those in actionable ways. So maybe we'll start the same with you, Professor Shev, and we'll make our way around.
I think it would be better if Stefanos or Jim goes, because for my contribution will be more about the leadership side, because I'm saying that at the end of the day, you can be very effective at doing everything that we're going to talk about in this course, the canvas and so on and so forth, understanding customer needs, but the kind of entrepreneurs who are the best and different from the rest show entrepreneurial leadership skills. And so what I'll do is I'll follow Stefanos and Jim and talk about that aspect that is also part of this course.
Okay, so maybe then I'm just gonna go next. So I think one of the things that they have recognized over the years is that probably a key essential ingredient of every successful venture is a clear and compelling customer need. When entrepreneurs jump to solutions too early without having a deep understanding of the need and the customer and customers' aspirations, they may end up going down the wrong path, trying to convince a customer that they have a need, while it's much easier to convince a customer to use a product if the product is addressing a real need. So investing time, energy, emotional energy in understanding the customer deeply and understanding their needs is an essential ingredient of successful ventures.
And so, Stefanos, I think that, if we look at that statistic that is quoted on the slide, this 35% of companies fail because there's no market need. I think the understanding there is, you say, there are a lot of people who come up with an idea they think is great, but they don't spend the time to validate whether or not a real problem exists that idea can address. So I'll address this second slide. The second statistic here was 20% just get out-competed. And there's a couple of components to this, but first of all is just because you have an idea and somebody has a problem doesn't necessarily mean that you'll do a better job of addressing that problem with your solution than already exists out there in the marketplace. So we want entrepreneurs to understand that they have to actively position their products, frame it in a way that people can see the benefit and understand why your alternative is a better alternative than anybody else's. There's also kind of an element of being able to deliver on that as well, which means what is the essential capability we need in our business model that is going to allow us to deliver this solution better than anyone else can deliver it. And so in addition to talking in this program about the importance of finding, understanding, and validating a true customer need, we'll also talk a little bit about the importance of positioning that, finding a value proposition, and then building an organization that's capable of delivering on that value proposition.
This course is such a relevant course, and you can tell in hearing from you all that the design of this program was really intentional around creating actionable learning that could make a real difference and have a far-reaching impact on the startup world as we know it. Professor Shev, any final thoughts that you'd like to share before we move on?
I just want to add my bit on this one. I mean, Absolutely. I mean, most of the entrepreneurs who I know fail or kind of, give up, would say, too early is because they haven't identified the market need. And very often you got to understand that it is not about solving it right. It is about the solving the right it. What is the right it for the customer that you're trying to solve? And this course actually takes you through a process by which you can actually zone in on what the right it that you need to solve for the customer, not only in terms of assessing the needs, but also coming up with prototypes. And we'll be talking about that momentarily. Apart from the usual kind of metrics that we look at in terms of success, and that is about the product market fit, which means that the market has a need and you have a product, a value proposition that matches with that need, and you're able to deliver that effectively, and then you're able to extract value from the customer. It has to be a profitable model. What's the point in starting a business if you're not, at minimum, covering the costs, right? But you want to make a profit out there. But what I have realized over a period of time is that what differentiates that, that 10% of the entrepreneurs who can go on to start one and then the second company and then the third company and be successful is that it is a game. It is entrepreneurship is a game. And it is a game in the sense that you have to win two games out here. One is the outer game, okay, where you have to win the hearts and minds of your customers and so on and so forth. And in the process of this course, you'll have to be talking to many of the potential customers, their interviews and so on and so forth. You got to win their hearts. You got to get their cooperation. So you get the insights out there. So you got to be charming and so on and so forth, right? So that is about winning the outer game. But even more important is winning the inner game. Because keep in mind, life as an entrepreneur can become quite stressful if that is what you make it to be, right? I mean, it's a totally enjoyable process if that is the attitude with which you get into the whole game of entrepreneurship, and that is an internal game. The internal game has to see that there's no successes or failures in life. There are only outcomes. It is your brain that has to say if that outcome is a success or a failure. So what we do in this course is that towards the end of the course, we're going to mentally provision you to becoming these truly exemplary leaders, these truly exemplary entrepreneurial leaders, so that you have the right skills in place to pull everything that we are talking about in this course in terms of need finding, developing prototypes, your go-to-market strategy, what is your pricing model, etc. You're going to overlay on top of that your skills that you're going to develop to be an exemplary entrepreneurial leader, to ensure that your business is going to be, or the new venture that you're going to get into is going to be highly successful.
It sounds like a really holistic approach here, incorporating these leadership principles together with these methodologies. So let's get into some more detail here as we think about who should attend this course. This is the reason folks have joined us here today to view this session, is to determine whether or not this course is a good fit for them. So we have folks joining in from all different regions of the globe, different backgrounds, professional levels, different stages of their startup, and would love to learn more from the three of you on the ideal profile you had in mind when you were putting this course together. So we know for folks who are looking to test an idea before the investment stage, this program is going to help you to gain the skills that you need to do that. If you're looking for that proven, modern, sort of at cutting edge, research-driven frameworks that are going to translate into that real world application and build that confidence, this course will allow you to do that. And then finally, as you can see here, learning from faculty and thought leaders who have seen these come to life, brought these ideas to life, and are here to help you learn to do the same. So that gives us a little bit of a frame here, but would love to hear from the three of you too. I'll bring you back into our fireside chat to learn more about, as you were putting the course together, particularly from your various, areas of expertise, who was it that you had in mind that you thought would benefit the most from this program?
So let me start by saying that what brought us together originally was this idea that people with an idea who, believe they have the sort of the germ of a startup idea out there. They just didn't know how to begin. And so what we did was we created an entrepreneurial companion, basically, which was you could have questions and then draw on the resources of this companion to answer those questions. And I think that was interesting, but the fact is that I think most people don't really have a startup project they're working on. They have an aspiration to say, what is it like? I want to try on for size what it's like to be an entrepreneur. And so what I need is somebody to help guide me through that process. So I think it's great if you come to this program with an idea in mind. It will give you something concrete to react to and to apply the ideas that you've heard here. But even if you don't, we'll give you context and we'll give you case studies and we'll take you through that journey with something that looks like an idea. And so that may inspire you as you go through this to say, now I know how to approach this and I'm going to take on my idea. So our goal really is not just to help people who have ideas, but people who aspire to take the next step in launching a startup.
Yeah, if I would use the language that we're going to be using in the course later today, we introduce later today, I can see three personas, three type of potential participants for the program. And I have seen that through my Startup Garage class. So the first one is what Jim mentioned is you decided that you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have an idea, and you want a structured, programmed way to help you further develop and explore that idea. So I would call that the committed entrepreneur. The second bucket is the curious entrepreneur. You're thinking that maybe entrepreneurship is for you. That is something that you may want to do. And this program can help you experience what entrepreneurship is. Even if you don't have an idea, we're going to give you some hints to get you started so you can experience the journey. The third bucket, which is rather unusual, but turns out to be rather significant, are leaders in organizations that want to become more entrepreneurial. And this program can give them a toolkit that they can then take and adapt within their organization. And I have seen all those three personas go through the various classes that I teach. And then I had them come back to me 3, 4, 5 years later and tell me, well, yes, these things actually work. We have seen them in our venture, in our career. It changes people's career perspective. So I think there are three distinct personas, three distinct buckets of participants that I hope we would attract to this program.
Would you have any final thoughts as well, Professor Shev, or shall we move on to the next?
No, I think it is well said by Jim and Stefanos. Yeah, I have nothing else to add to that.
Agree. So now it's a good time for me to I'll reshare out the screen here as we dive into some more of the course topics here. Our professors are going to take us through some of the core frameworks that are the backbone of this program. But I'd like to remind everyone that we are joined by program advisors here in the question box. I see some questions already coming through. Please do put those questions in. I'm going to hand over the spotlight to our professors for this next segment. They're going to take us through the course by a module view, talk about some of those case studies and learning objectives. So while they're making their way through this next segment, please do put any questions for our professors right there in the Q&A box. We're going to be answering those a little bit towards the end of the session. And before I hand this over to our professors, I'd like to answer the question that did come in here from an anonymous attendee in the question box. Are these sessions pre-recorded? So as we think about the content here in the program, just to set the stage for our professors, we are going to be talking through each of these modules, but this course does have 6 modules. You can think of each of these modules as a week's worth of content. You and your peers will have an entire week to make your way through that set of content, but you'll be able to design individual schedules that work for you. So you'll be in cadence with your peers, making your way through that subject matter content, but again, with the flexibility of individual schedules. And the way that works is that set of content does contain those on-demand videos that you're asking about, or those pre-recorded sessions from our faculty. These really set the stage for the frameworks that we'll be delving into in that module. The module content also contains a lot of interactive and engaging material we'll talk about a little bit later on in today's session when we get to the learning experience component. But that's really where you get some of these synchronous opportunities to engage with your peers and faculty. So stay tuned for more on the learning experience. But with that, let's go ahead and hand it over now to our course professors to tell us a little bit more about how this program unfolds and what those core objectives are. Over to you. And I think we'll start with you, Professor Zenios, to talk about the Startup Canvas model.
Great. So I think the organizing principle for our course is what we call the Startup Canvas. And many of you may already be familiar with the business model canvas or lean canvas. There are a lot of canvases out there. This is our canvas. We like to call it the minimum viable canvas. What are the key elements of a business model that you want to articulate at the early stage of your venture? And there are 4 elements. The first one, as we mentioned earlier, who is the customer and what is the need? The second one is what is your solution and what is the value proposition? The third one is how are you going to get your product to the market, to your customers? What is your go-to-market strategy? And the fourth one is how are you going to make money? How are you going to make profit? So the program is organized around the principle of developing your hypothesis about the 4 buckets of the Startup Canvas and experimenting and testing and validating those hypotheses. And our modules will do deep dive on each of the individual elements of the canvas. So I think next we're going to go into describing the individual modules. But before I go that, I want to invite Jim and Baba to add anything around our organizing principle.
So I think that summarizes things beautifully, Stefanos. And so I guess the other thing I would say is that, you know, I think there's great power to frameworks that are simple. And I think this is really easy to grasp. And if I were to do a study and try to understand why it is that startups don't thrive, there would be problems that originate in each one of these boxes. So we've talked about those a little bit already, but just this sense of in each one of these things, we're really answering questions of, okay, I understand that I need to understand my customers, but how do I start doing that? How do I go about doing it? So in each of these boxes, we'll give you tools and frameworks to understand it, and then we'll give you an opportunity to apply it and learn from it. So just think about this as that these 4 areas are absolutely essential for an entrepreneur to understand, but also to perform well in each one of these levels.
And just to give my 2 cents on this, what is highlighted is the simplicity. So Jim, Stefanos, and I, when we're putting together the Embark course, spent a lot of time thinking about what are the key essentials. There are so many canvases out there, but what are the key essential things that the entrepreneur needs to do to be successful? Because it's all about return on time invested here and return on energy invested. And so this is a distillation of our own combined experiences dealing with entrepreneurs and dealing with several of the business model canvases. It's very simple. At the same time, it is extremely rich. When you start getting to each of the modules, you'll begin to see that it takes you through a step-by-step process that will kind of ensure that you're not kind of going down pathways that will lead you to nowhere. I mean, you'll be able to quickly make decisions to change course. And that's how the whole kind of canvas has been designed.
Great, thank you. So let's go ahead. Thank you for highlighting, first of all, those organizing principles here, behind the curriculum and sort of the simplicity and power of this. So let's see how it unfolds across these 6 modules, starting with the first 3. So what are we doing in the first half of the program?
Okay, great. So the first module begins with the customer. Who is your customer? What are their needs? You will learn how to run open-ended, semi-structured interviews to gain empathy about your customer and their need. You will need to differentiate between a customer and a user. A customer pays, a user uses, but they don't necessarily pay. And it's an important distinction. And you will learn how to synthesize information from interviews into a persona, a description of your customer and their needs. Once you do that, then you're going to move to the second module, which is about developing a solution. You will learn about structured brainstorming techniques. You will apply them to the needs of the customer, and then you will learn how to, through the brainstorming, develop prototypes, low resolution prototypes, and learn about different prototyping techniques. There are going to be activities that is going to give you the opportunity to do that. The opportunity to watch interviews, synthesize information, run your own brainstorms, and develop prototypes. And these activities are inspired by the experience and projects of other entrepreneurs. And then on to module 3, and then Jim will talk about module 3.
Okay, so I did mention that I am a professor of marketing here and spend a lot of time on this. And a value proposition, a statement of the value you deliver, is so important. And I think it is an underutilized tool by too many early stage entrepreneurs. So we're going to talk about what goes into a value proposition and what makes it really a powerful tool. But basically, you have to make sure that you articulate 3 things. Who is this product for? What benefit does it provide? And how is it different from all of the things that are out there that are already available? And so what we'll do is we'll go through a framework that allows people to collect that information. The other thing I'll emphasize about these modules is, though we are talking about them sequentially, they build on one another. So one of the things you'll see here is that when I put a value proposition together, it's going to be based on untested assumptions. So the first thing I'll do is I'll say, this is the value I hope to deliver to this particular customer. And now we're going to ask the question, well, do I have evidence to suggest that this is the way it will work, that they'll react to this? So as you'll see here, you've learned how to put a prototype together in module 2. We'll ask you to think about designing a prototype that allows you to test whether or not the assumptions underlying your value proposition will actually allow you to deliver that value proposition. So that's module 3. If we can move the slides, I'll go on to module 4. The other thing that I mentioned is that after 20 years of teaching marketing here, I got into teaching sales. And that sales course is really about go-to-market. And here at the GSB, we have students who are very interested in understanding how to achieve product market fit. It's this idea that I understand the problem that's out there, and then I validate the solution that somebody is willing to, that the customers are willing to use your idea to address their problem. And sometimes people get to that point and say, wow, this is great. We've got a great idea, and it addresses this problem. But they don't think enough about, how am I going to put this into the hands of my target customers? How do I find them cost effectively? Where are they? And do I have a model which is economically efficient enough to put it in their hands? So we will, in this module, talk really about this idea of, how do you go to market? What are some of the ways in which you do it? We'll give you examples of some go-to-market strategies and challenge you to think about situations in which, for a particular idea, what's the best way of going to market? How would you do that? Can I turn things over to you for module 5, Stefanos?
Okay, sure. Thank you, Jim. So module 5 is about assessing your profit model. It's about, first of all, figuring out how you're going to price your product. What is your pricing model? Understanding about benchmarks and comparables. Think about the value proposition as this compelling statement of the value you're delivering to your customer. Now in module 5, you have to assign a dollar amount or a euro amount or whatever your local currency amount is to that value proposition. And you do that by looking to comparables, by understanding what your customers are currently paying, and you're coming up with a price point. Then you have to figure out what is going to be your margin, what is going to be your costs, and make certain assumptions. But also importantly, you also need to figure out what is going to be your customer acquisition cost. Now, linking back to your go-to-market strategy, there are tactics and activities in which you will need to invest in order to turn someone who's interested in your product to an actual customer. You will have to figure out how much all that is going to cost you. And then finally, you want to figure out whether your customer are going to use your product one, or they're going to be repeat customers, and they're going to bring you repeat revenue. So when you bring all this together, you have one number that is called the lifetime value of the customer, and another number that is called the customer acquisition cost. The customer acquisition cost has to be less than the lifetime value of the customer, and actually it has to be significantly less. So you will learn how to evaluate those two numbers and what those two numbers say about the viability of your venture. Because at the end of the day, if we go back to our original three numbers, three reasons that startups fail. The first reason, there is no customer need. So we help you think through the customer need. The second one, they don't have a compelling differentiated value proposition. We'll help you think through that. And the third one, they have a flawed business model. So assessing your profit model is where you will be able to understand whether you have a business model that's going to work or whether your model is going to be flawed. But in order to do that, you have to be a very self-aware entrepreneurial leader. And Baba has some great content on how to develop those essential entrepreneurial leadership skills and mindset. So Baba, can I turn that over to you?
Of course. Thanks, Stefanos. So think about the following journey you're going to be on. You're going to be on a sprint for the next 6 weeks. I mean, it's going to be a 6-week course. You think of this as you're putting in everything that you have in you. Of course, you have your day job. Of course, you have other things in your life, but I'm sure you're going to be serious enough to make this effort that you're putting in to see some fruition, right? It's a 6-week sprint that will result in maybe a 6-year marathon, maybe a 60-year marathon. Who knows? You might be that successful entrepreneur out there where the sprint turns into a successful marathon run. So for that, you have to kind of exhibit entrepreneurial leadership skills. And as I mentioned earlier on, since my expertise is in the brain sciences, and we are talking about selling, and you're trying to get your customers to kind of buy your product, I'm kind of thinking in terms of how do you sell to the human brain, right? At some point in time, you'll have to go knock at the doors of the investors. At some other point in time, you might want to get a co-founder or someone who is going to be the first team that you're going to put together. This requires being able to sell. How do you sell to the human brain is what we will get into in the module 6, and then that will be followed by, it is going to be very stressful. I mean, if you're into this, that sprint is not going to be easy, right? There are going to be pain points out there you yourself are going to experience. So which means that you need to have the resilience to stress in this 6-week sprint time period you're going to be on. And hopefully that will be the kind of foundation for being stress-free later on as a successful entrepreneur. I will give you these very simple low-hanging fruit tools and techniques to build resilience to the stress as you go through this journey for the next 6 weeks.
Right, that's a great segue into the next slide here. Would love to hear your perspectives on some of the ways in which we engage with case study analysis in order to bring to light the learning here. So what we know from case study analysis, it's a chance to take a look at industry examples, real world scenarios, and really examine them from multiple aspects, lift frameworks that you can then apply to your own organization, your own challenges. So would love to hear how case study analysis has been applied here in this program and how folks are going to be walking through some of these examples to better solidify their learning. I think Jim, we'll hand it to you for this part.
Okay, I'm happy to start here. So I won't go through all of these in detail. I want to just talk about the philosophy of learning here. So Stefanos mentioned it. He said that what we engage in here is experiential learning. I teach a course on the fundamentals of effective selling. And one of the things we say in that course is that if you want to get good at sales, you don't get good at sales by reading a book. You get out there and you exercise the muscles that help you to learn how to be effective in all of this. So I don't think you'll get good at entrepreneurship by watching a video. You get good by trying to internalize the lessons of that video and then learn from that by applying them and seeing how it affects your decision making, your understanding, etc. So in all of these modules, we want to engage you in taking the frameworks we present and then trying them out, because we give you a question that involves a company or a setting or whatever, and have you apply what you've learned to then come up with answers to these questions. And I think that this is what is helpful for those people who don't have an idea for a venture that they're following along. We'll give you an idea each time. We'll give you a context, and it gives you an opportunity to apply these things. So with the case studies in my modules, what you'll do is you'll have a problem. We'll ask you for the solution to that problem. You'll submit that solution. You'll commit to it. You can discuss it with other people in the program, and then we'll debrief you by giving you a sense of, okay, so here are some of the things that should have come up in your approach to this case study. So again, it's this idea of experience of saying, I believe I understand this. I am now going to apply it to come up with a solution. I am now going to review my solution to that problem in light of what other people have said about it. And it will help to improve your sophistication, your understanding, and the generality of your learning.
Great, thank you. Well, let's go ahead and move into the last and final segment for our professors here before we talk about the learning experience. But what are some of these other program elements that you incorporated in order to add value? We see some of these strategic frameworks and tools, these case study analysis, the capstone project. Any final thoughts from this group on some of these more tactical takeaways that we're building here throughout the program?
So one thing they would add here is, so a program like this, because it's based on like how we typically teach, is organized in a linear fashion. You will learn about the different steps to developing your venture in a linear fashion. But the process is actually highly iterative, especially once you start working on your capstone project. You may be working on the value proposition step of the capstone project and recognize that maybe there are some questions that you should have asked your users, your customers, that you didn't ask. There is nothing that prohibits you from going back and doing a second round of interviews. Or as you're developing the value proposition, you may say, hey, the prototype that I have developed may not be working the way I intended to work. Let me test it with my customers. Let's see what they say. Let me reframe my value proposition based on what I have learned. And that is the value of the capstone project. You may find yourself getting stuck and at a particular step in the project. And what I found out is when you get stuck, there are two ways of getting unstuck. One is to go backwards. And the other one, and this is counterintuitive, is to go forwards. Try both of them and see which one enables you to get unstuck. And that's where entrepreneurship, learning entrepreneurship, only can happen in a meaningful way if you do it experientially. And the combination of frameworks, case studies, and capstone projects is our way of enabling you to immerse yourself in the entrepreneurial journey in a structured way and learn about all the parts of the step, of parts of the process.
Well said. Any other thoughts to incorporate here before we move on from the team? Great. So absolutely. And this is a great segue as we move into the next section here and talk about some of those other learning experience components. So we're going to walk through a little bit more on the learning experience, but as described here, really every step of the way, we're thinking about ways in which we can design this program and deliver it in order for you to action it and help build your career and your ideas. So Some of these elements here, you'll have access to Stanford Graduate School of Business proprietary strategy tools and frameworks. You'll be able to practice these in real time and bring them to life with your own ideas throughout your time here in the program. You'll have manageable time investment, 4 to 6 hours per week. So as described here, this program is brought to all of you in this online context, allowing you to take this course and immerse yourself in this learning environment from your own region. And that also allows you to integrate your learning with your other professional, family, and personal responsibilities. And so as you think about doing that, this is one of those programs that allow you to really integrate your learning. The time commitment is manageable. It's only that 4 to 6 hours. And as we described earlier, you can design a schedule that works for you. So much of the components that you see here on your screen are asynchronous. So again, at the beginning of each week, a set of content is released, much of what you see here on your screen, case study analysis, exercises, these on-demand videos from your course faculty. You can watch those as many times as you need to around a schedule that works for you. And again, engage in these asynchronous activities to really immerse yourself in the learning and interact as you go, but all within a schedule that works for you. Some of the live synchronous components you see here on the screen, you'll see there are live sessions with faculty. We have office hours. In addition to our course faculty, in addition to those guest speakers, you will also be joined by a team of course leaders serving as your sort of teaching fellows, if you will, helping to guide your day-to-day learning. So they're going to be hosting office hours where you and your peers can come together, discuss your ideas. Some of those challenges that we heard about from our professors, sort of going backwards and going forward, that iterative process that you need in order to bring your ideas to life. We have space for you to do that in this live context with your peers and teaching team here in the program. The course leaders are giving you individual feedback on all of your assignments. They're on the discussion boards with you and your peers, helping to push your thinking and drive engagement. So you have those opportunities for learning as well. All of those live sessions are recorded and put into the platform the next day and available in a simulated live way on demand for the remainder of your time in the program. So even if you have to miss one of those live synchronous sessions, you'll have an opportunity to have that simulated live experience for the rest of the program. So you can come back and take a look at those recordings and can continue to engage with your questions. This webinar here is also being recorded. So for those of you looking to receive copies, we're going to be following up within 24 hours to give you copies of all of the slides here, as well as a copy of today's recording. So we invite you to stay tuned for more from us on that. And with that, let's go ahead and get to the next steps here. If you're interested in learning more about this program, you may have questions. I think we've done a pretty good job here in the question box, answering all the questions in the background via typed text as we've gone through. So we don't have anything pending. We'll be closing out the session here in just a moment, but we want to let you know where to go for next steps. So if you're here with us in the audience and you're interested in learning more about this program, or if you're ready to apply, we invite you to go over to the course page. So you'll see there's a QR code there on your screen. If you have a smartphone, you can hold it up to that QR code. You can also use the short link there, and those will get you over to the course page. Once you're on the course page, there are 3 things you'll be able to do there. Firstly, you can download the full course brochure. That is a comprehensive overview of this program, everything we've described here and more. So it's beautifully designed. We invite you to download that brochure, take a look. If you'd like to sort of study ahead and get to know this course a bit more, that brochure will give you what you need to know. The second thing you can do here from the course website is you can get connected with a program advisor. So as I've mentioned, they've been here with us every step here in the chat box and the question box, helping to guide today's session. We want to make sure that that high level of support and relational relationships that you'll receive in the program begins right here today with watching this session and getting connected with an advisor. So right there from the course page, you can click schedule with an advisor, find a time that works for you, and they will give you a call when it's best convenient, and you can talk through some of your questions. Our program advisors are course experts when it comes to all of the logistics for this program. So, when does the next course begin? What's the evaluative criteria for this program? They'll walk you through some of those components as well. So in addition to the logistics for this program, they can tell you more about the flexible and transparent payment options. So if you're looking to learn more about our referral system, we have a generous refund, a 21-day a trial basis. So a lot to explore there as you think about learning more here about this program. So go over to the course page where you can get connected with an advisor. They can walk you through those details as well. And then finally, thirdly, from the course page, you can begin that application, which we invite you to go ahead and do if you have not done so already. So I'm going to open up our question box one more time and make sure that we have all of our questions answered here. Oh, look, we have one here pending. I'm going to invite our professors into our Q&A here. This question is from Roshini, who's writing about if you already have an investment idea, are you going to provide the tools to really help gain exposure on finding investors for that idea? So this is a common question we have. Are you going to help sort of guide that funding and investing process?
Who wants to take that?
So I'll take a crack at that. So I think that's a very common question, that what you're gonna learn in this course is how, especially by going through the steps of the course, you will be able to communicate effectively with investors. And this is what we have found out, is that oftentimes entrepreneurs jump ahead and they start thinking about funding before they develop the fundamentals. Every investor you will talk to will want you to have good answers on who is your customer, what is your product, what is your value proposition, what is your profit model, and what evidence do you have about traction. So this program will help you put together the essential ingredients, and that can turn into an effective investor pitch. We are not teaching how to pitch to investors in this program. We are focusing on the actual process of figuring out your startup idea and launching it.
And just to build on that, Mary, to the question that Roshni had posed was, it's absolutely right. I mean, we don't want to talk about the investor, because the way I look at when I meet entrepreneurs, I say is that, why do you want to raise money? Why can't you bootstrap? If you cannot bootstrap, then there's something wrong with that, right? I mean, at minimum, you should be able to have the business go and sustain without having to raise money. Like Beth Gerstein of Brilliant Earth, they didn't raise any money. It took them 12 years before they went to their first round of fundraising. So that's what we kind of always kind of tell entrepreneurs, that don't kind of put the cart before the horse, right? I mean, just go through step by step. We're not going to suddenly kind of direct you to particular investors out there, but the course will be very useful in coming up with a very kind of sound elevator pitch. I mean, that's what will emerge from there. I mean, from your capstone, you can easily kind of have a 2-minute elevator pitch with which you can kind of go armed with that. It'll be much easier for you when it comes time to raise money, to go there and knock at the doors and be successful at raising money.
Thank you for those perspectives as well. So with that, we are going to go ahead and close out today's session. We've reached the top of the hour here. I'll invite you all who are joining one last time here to grab that link here, either using the QR code or the link there on your screen. You can also find that link in the chat box. If you open the chat box, you can click on it there, over to the course page, and get connected with an advisor and start the application from there. I do see some questions coming in, some thank you messages as well, questions about the recording. Today's recording will be provided by email within 24 hours. So please do take a look at that email. If you don't yet have a program advisor and you receive that email, please do reply all, let us know. We'll get you connected by email as well. So we want to make sure you have all the support that you need as you seek to learn more about this program. It does begin just around the corner. We hope you'll join us. With that, I'm going to open our fireside chat one last time. I would love to hear any final thoughts from our course faculty as we close out the session. So once again, I'll start with you, Professor Shev, and we'll make our way around, but would love to hear any final words of wisdom, words of advice, or thoughts that you'd like to share here.
I mean, my word of wisdom is that when you embark on this journey, go there with a positive attitude. It's going to be a fun experience. It should not be treated as a chore. It's something that it's going to be a journey where you're going to discover things about yourself as well. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Stefanos and Jim.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. Is what I like to tell my students at Startup Garage. It's about the journey. It's not about the destination. So I'm Greek. I like the Odyssey. So the big part of the Odyssey, what makes the Odyssey fascinating, and you think about that, is it was the journey, not the destination. There is a famous modern Greek poet who wrote a poem called Ithaca, and it's all about the journey. So enjoy the journey. It's a fascinating journey.
Yeah, I would encourage you, if you're going to take this journey, to get ready to roll up your sleeves. You will get out of it what you put into it. And experiential learning means that you have to be prepared to try out these ideas. There's no better testing ground for an entrepreneur is to say here, you're going to have a whole career of simply trying to get the answers to questions by applying what you know. So we'll get you started on that process.
Well, thank you so much to all of our professors for firstly putting this course together, and then also for being here to tell us more about it. So I will reshare the screen here on that link so you can grab that over to the course page to learn more about this program. And with that, we will sign off here to all of you. Again, great honor and privilege learning shoulder to shoulder with each and every one of you here today. Thanks again for joining, and we will sign off here with a heartfelt good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good day to all of you from around the globe. Thanks again for joining, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye, Julian.